what? I made it home. I know I told everyone that I would be live at 6:30, but almost 2 hours, not quite. An hour and 45 minutes later, we are here. I want to recap what we talked about yesterday. There's been a lot of great questions about the 2 things you need to breastfeed, and I'll give you a little spoiler alert. To breastfeed, if you're a woman, whether you're a pregnant woman or an adoptive mama, you can breastfeed your baby if you have breast and a pituitary gland. These are some of, in nursing, as a nurse practitioner, we call them clinical pearls. But in this live tonight, I'm going to talk you through your breastfeeding journey, a little bit of a recap on what it will be like to have a successful breastfeeding journey, some clinical pearls along the way, and then also your labor roadmap guide. If we were running a marathon, or if I was a 26-mile race coach and I could explain to you exactly what you need to win the race or run a marathon, because 26 miles, that's really hard. I've done it one time in Disney World and I'll never do it again. My body is not made for running marathons. Half marathons, a little bit better, but running marathons not my thing. But what got me through was when my coach would tell me, okay, at this mile you'll have a hill, at this mile you'll want to pace. Or if you've ever run a marathon or have watched or seen this, they have pacers, runners who pace you and say, if you want to finish your marathon in 5 hours, run with me. In 2 hours, run with this person. And they talk to you about what's up ahead, helping you know when you get water. They're kind of like your doula. So tonight, I want to be your impromptu birth coach, and I want to take you through your labor roadmap from pre-labor, pretty much from conception into you have a baby skin to skin, and then those first interventions after birth, what this looks like. And depending on the energy and how we get in flow tonight, if there's some people who are on and they want to have a reading, I do feel open to some spirit babies coming through and doing some intuitive readings, but we'll see what happens with that. So let's get started with a recap from yesterday's live, and then the labor roadmap, and then I also want to discuss the holistic pregnancy program a little bit at the end. Okay, so yesterday on the live, I gave away the secret right away. We talked about the 2 things you need to breastfeed. This is something that, when you're in the hospital or at a home birth or a birth center and you feel like my milk's not coming in, or am I going to need formula? First of all, if you want to feed your baby formula, feed your baby formula and feel confident and feel proud in your decision. If you want to breastfeed your baby, even if it's a drop, that drop will change the flora and the seeding of your baby's gut. Now, we talked about you just need a breast and pituitary gland to make breast milk. That means you'll make drops or you might make gallons. That part is up to, your delivery, your placenta, your hormones, your nutrition, all of the above. And that's where a lactation consultant will come in. But just remember, if you had fluids, if you had an epidural, if you had a C-section, you might notice there's a little bit of a delay to your milk coming in. But by golly, if you want to breastfeed, don't take any criticism or naysayers saying that you won't be able to produce breast milk, because just be like, well, the last time I checked, I have breast and a pituitary gland, so I'll be able to produce milk. And then you can work with a lactation consultant or even your pediatrician on, am I making a full supply? But even if you're not making a full supply, your baby will be able to have your breast milk. And I can't emphasize this enough, in that if you have breast and a pituitary gland, you can make breast milk. While you're pregnant, you can hand express or pump and get little syringes of colostrum. So if you're a new mom or you knew last baby you had trouble with your milk supply, if you start pumping, a couple weeks before birth, it will help with, and run this by your doctor to make sure, you're not at risk for preterm labor and all the things. But you can do some hand expression. You might notice in the shower, you have some colostrum dripping, and save those little drops. Those are like baby peanut butter balls. When your milk comes in, it's like drinking almond milk. When you have those little drops of colostrum, these are like really dense tablespoons of almond butter. And that calorie load, that nutrient load, is enough to get your baby through several hours to even several days. So if you have something unplanned, like an emergency C-section, a stressful birth, a lot of fluids, baby has a tongue tie, latching's off, if you're having any trouble with breastfeeding in the beginning couple hours or days, which is common, you'll have those colostrum syringes to fall back on and be like, you know what, we can supplement with my milk. And if you don't want to feed formula, that could be a way to mitigate that. So that's what we touched on yesterday. I talked about lactation cookies and how I think they're like the worst thing ever for you. When your provider or your midwife or whoever says you need protein for your birth or for your pregnancy, just think they mean calories, and then you can catch the replay in my YouTube or posted in, I think it's just on the YouTube. You'll probably have to figure that out, or send me a DM if you're not sure where to find that. So, and then also your hormones. So having your hormones checked out, not just by your OB/GYN or even your midwife. A lot of times those providers, we need them honed in and trained essentially on birth and delivery. So to say that your OB or your midwife will be like a hormone expert, what they'll probably do is run your hormones and get standard reference ranges and then tell you everything looks good, but be working with someone, ideally preconception, but even during pregnancy or postpartum, who is really trained in bioidentical hormones, optimal hormone optimization for women. Progesterone is your best friend. I posted a study about it's oral progesterone, but we do troches in my practice, and it doesn't go through your liver, way less side effects, way better for you. But that progesterone is going to be fertility, breastfeeding, help your placenta, help your delivery. Let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. My neighbor is mowing their lawn. I thought I was safe at 8 something at night, but so if you can't hear me, let me know. But so that was yesterday. Today, I want to take you through your labor roadmap from the moment that you conceive and to the moment that you have your baby in your arms after delivery of placenta. I say that because if you've ever seen a birth or had a birth yourself, baby's born, and if baby has like a standard size cord, baby's going to come to about right here. And you as mom want baby up here, but you had to wait for the delivery of the placenta for baby to come all the way up. Okay. So what happens so you get pregnant, miracle number 1, you grow a baby, miracle number 2, you go into labor, miracle number 3. So as over this decade of experience as a doula, a labor delivery nurse, there have been some key, again, we call them clinical pearls, but if you just think of them like labor roadmap milestones along the birth, that if you can watch for these, I'm going to get a little closer as that lawnmower picks up in the background, but if you can watch for these clinical pearls along your labor roadmap, it's like running a marathon. It's like me saying, hey, there's a huge hill at mile 8, so let me help you prep for this. You're going to want to run miles 6 and 7 a little bit slower. You're going to want to get water. You're going to want to get some glucose tablets. I'm going to give you that roadmap for most physiological normal births, what that looks like. Okay. So most of the time, first time mom, second time moms, not so much. You don't usually see the pre-labor happen. You might see some Braxton Hicks or some warm-up contractions, but with your first baby, most of the time you'll be in labor for essentially like this pre-labor, this kind of ho-hum labor for a couple of days. I've had clients who, I remember being at an event on a Monday night. She's like, I'm going into labor, and we would time her contractions. We would watch it. She would go to the hospital, and it was pre-labor. And then it was Wednesday, and she's like, I'm in labor. And she would go, and we would time her contractions, and we would do rest in fluids, and then she would go out of labor. So this pre-labor can last a couple hours, a couple of days, even a couple weeks. And rule of thumb, if you're having pre-labor any earlier than 38 weeks, so like 38 weeks on, you're usually good. If you're at 37 weeks, if you're at 36, this is not a time to rest, take in more fluids, see what happens. It's a time to consult your OB or your midwife, and you might go to them right before even your doula. So rule of thumb, you want to make sure that you are at viable term to have a baby to be in contractions. The most important thing to know about your contractions is to know if they're pre-labor or if you're moving into what we call active labor. So your cervix is going to dilate from 0 to 4 centimeters, though the end goal is 10 centimeters, before you even get into active labor. Active labor starts at 4 centimeters. That's when most hospitals will admit you. That's when birthing centers will admit you. Your midwife likely won't come to attend your birth until you're at that 4 centimeters. So pre-labor is everything before that. And pre-labor looks like contractions just happening quickly, one after the another, every 5 to 10 minutes, every 5 to 12 minutes, and this going on for a matter of hours. Here's a little secret that you can utilize if you want to nip this in the bud and say, listen, body, are we having real labor, or is this warm up? Is this pre-labor? If your contractions speed up with rest and fluid, so you come lay down, you kick your feet up, you take a bath, you get a tea, you get some lemon water, you get a green juice, you get a smoothie, coconut water. I'm getting ridiculous, but you get some sort of healthy beverage. You catch my drift. Not a soda, not a Coca-Cola. That's just going to make your baby go wild. If your labor speeds up with rest and fluids, you're in it. If your labor starts to pitter patter out and eventually dwindle down, and then next thing you notice you fell asleep and it's the next morning, that was pre-labor. Or just an irritated uterus. You can get, if you're dehydrated, if you're tired, if your hormones are recalibrating, if your baby is just, your body is warming up. Because think about this, like before you get into active labor, you're gonna stretch and span and dilate and efface from 0 centimeters and 0% effaced, meaning there's no dilation to your cervix starting to look like this. And effacement, you can think of your cervix like when your cervix is stretched thin and it's really soft, it's effaced. So 0% effaced is like your chin. It's pretty hard. 50 to 75% effaced is like your nose. You have a little bit of softer, right? When you get to like 60 to 75% effaced, you're like your cheek. Okay, this is your cervix. And then think of the inside of your cheek, how you could stretch it, how it's soft, how it's pliable. When you're 100% effaced, meaning your cervix is all the way stretched and ready, that's what it feels like. Now, dilation is also different. So every time you're like walking and you're like, is this labor? And you're having it feels like a menstrual cramp, right? Like a sensation, a contraction. That uterine muscle is contracting because your uterus sits here, right? Uterus is a little bit bigger and your cervix is here at the bottom. So you're having a squeeze to open here. You're having a squeeze to open here. You're having a squeeze to open here. And this cervix, from this muscle contracting, has to get big enough to fit a baby's head. So when you're having those warm up or pre-labor or even Braxton Hicks contractions, there's always a purpose in it. And actually be really happy and excited if you have a lot of pre-labor. What I tell moms is it's like going to the gym and doing lots of stretches, lots of warm up, walking on the treadmill, getting really warmed up for the workout versus me telling you, cold turkey, you just got out of bed, your legs are cold, go run an 800-meter sprint as fast as you can. That would be brutal. Versus I said, let's walk a quarter of a mile. Let's do some 100-meter sprints to warm you up. Let's train over the next couple weeks. Your body is constantly warming you up. And you have to get to 4 centimeters before you're in active labor. So what happens at 4 centimeters? I have like this picture perfect image in my head of like what 90% of moms look like at 4 centimeters, and this is how you'll know. And I want you to have these pieces for your birth and for your labor to remember like nothing's wrong with your body and you're actually following the perfect normal process. Because at 4 centimeters, this, like most moms have like a cute messy bun, their makeup is done if they like makeup, they're sitting on the bouncy ball, they're happy, we're talking on the phone, or I would walk in the hospital delivery room and they're like, hey Jen, this is the big day, and they're so happy and they have this glow and they're like listening to their fun pump up labor playlist, they're talking with their family, they're texting their friends, they're like, we're doing this, like, ooh, a contraction, and then they slow down and they're breathing through the contraction. A key for labor is you're in it when you've got to lean on something or you have to hold on something when you're having a contraction. And that shows you, okay, you're really in this active labor. And then after the contraction at 4 centimeters, they're back to like bouncing on the ball and talking and having a good time and dreaming about their baby. And then remember, we're going to dilate to 10 centimeters to get all the way to push baby. So then about 5-6 centimeters, they're like, huh, okay, this is pretty rough. Wow, this is intense. And then they're kind of getting more serious. And they're like, and you're talking to them in a contraction, and their knees buckle, or they're just really focused and you're saying stuff to them, or their husband's trying to make the same jokes that he was making and like, hey, don't you want to text your sister Becky back? And the mom's like, no. Like it's a pretty distinct change. And as a new doula, like my first birth or two, I was like, is she mad at me? Did I do something? And then I would fall back on this teaching that I had of like, oh, no. She is just starting to shift into different modes of labor. So 4 centimeters, you're happy. 6 centimeters, this is probably, other than what I'm going to talk about at transition, the most important thing to know. At 6 centimeters, your pain caps. Your body says, it's like if I handed you a dumbbell, your body's like, it's as bad as I can make it. It's as intense as I can make it, mama. And at 6 centimeters, your body hands you the dumbbell and says, here's the weight we're going to be lifting for this whole thing, right? So at 6 centimeters, your pain will cap there. Your contractions, if I gave you a 15-pound dumbbell and said, do squats with this, I'm not going to hand you anything heavier than a 15. Now, I might ask you to do slightly more reps in a 1 minute, 10 minute, 30-second period of time, but that's as heavy it's going to get. I'm not going to give you a 100-pound dumbbell. So if you can remember, if you want a natural or try a natural birth, this is a good rule of thumb to gauge if your nervous system is a fit. Be like, can I get to 6 centimeters? And then at 6 centimeters, take an honest evaluation. Can I do this? Can I cope with this? Okay. Yes, I can. I actually could take a little bit more intensity, no more pain than this, but I could take a little bit more weight if I were given more reps, not more weight. I could do this. If you're like, I literally am at my max, I can't imagine anything else, then maybe it's the time to consider some pain intervention. So 6 centimeters, your pain caps, and then you're cruising on to 8 centimeters, which is what we call transition, which if you can remember this, if you're like, I want to try a pain-free birth, or you know what, or like a medication-free, epidurals don't always block you completely, right? Like spinal blocks don't always block you completely. A lot of moms feel sensation, feel pressure, they might be more numbed on one side than the other. And emotionally, you still want to know this labor roadmap. When you get to 8 centimeters, it's called transition. And from 8 to 10 centimeters, every single mom says, I can't do this. Or in a very animated expression with some lovely choice, really like, moms in labor have the best swear words and the best phrases. I'm like, I gotta write that one down. But they might be like, ba 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 ba, their flowery language. They can't do this. 8 centimeters, I want you to remember, it's when you will doubt yourself. It's when you will say, F this, get me out of here, hook me up with a epidural in the parking lot, and then you dilate. Most moms, now, sometimes there's some asynclitic birth. You might get, baby's head might be wonky on one side. You might have we call it a cervical lip, where one side of the cervix is a little bit thicker and has a hard time. But most of the time, 8 to 10 centimeters is your transition. This is when your fiery F-bombs are going everywhere. This is when you're like, I should have got this medication, this and this. And if you want it, get it. Most of the time, the nurse will be like, yeah, honey, we'll get you an epidural. And she knows full well by the time the anesthesiologist makes it up to your bedside, even if it's a small hospital and they're quick, that you're going to be at 10 centimeters. And at 10 centimeters, you can start pushing. And this is where moms are like, oh, now they take all that pissed off pain or discomfort or anger or frustration that they're feeling because they want the sensations that are uncomfortable to be over, and they channel it into pushing. I've seen moms birth their baby in 3 pushes. I've seen moms birth their baby in 3.5 hours. And what it comes down to in the pushing phase is that mind, body, breath connection. I don't recommend purple pushing. Most OBs are going to have you breathe in, hold your legs, push, 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 push. And for like 10 seconds, you're going to be doing one breath out and pushing, and you're going to do that 3 times total per contraction. It's called purple pushing. I've seen a lot of babies born just fine that way. And then also it's a little bit more stressful on you and your baby. So if you can follow When you get to 10, if your baby is low enough, have your nurse check you or have your midwife check you, check baby's station. So we talked about dilation and effacement, which means how big your cervix gets is dilation and how stretchy it gets is effacement. You have to be at pretty much 100% effaced and 10% dilated to be able to push. But there's also a thing called baby station, which goes like this, right? So you want baby to be at a lower station. So you have +3, 2, 1, 0, negative, and then it goes down. You want baby to be at a low station. And you can say, what's my baby station, or where's my baby at? Remember this, is my baby low enough to start pushing? Here's also how you will know. You will feel the urge to push like you have a bowel movement. Your stool and your baby hit the same stretch reflex receptors in your perineum that make you go, ooh. You know, like when you've had a really good, like, let's be honest with each other and just girls here for a second. Like, we've all had that bowel movement that we were really impressed with and the way it made us go because it hit that stretch receptor, right? Your baby's going to hit it and you're going to have this feeling, right? I know. This is a question. Am I going to poop in labor? Okay. Do you want like a little hack that I've given clients that are just mortified? One, everyone poops and no one cares because like they just wipe it away. But if you are mortified at the fact of having a bowel movement, even if it's teeny tiny in labor, some moms have found effect when they are already in labor. They do a like warm water or distilled water enema at home as they get into labor, and it clears them out, and typically they don't have another stool during pushing phase. So rest assured, if that freaks you out, a lot of moms, and most of the time by the time you get in labor, you won't be thinking about this and you won't care to do the freaking enema. But if you want it, it is there. Moms use it and they're like, I didn't poop, or at least no one told her she did. So at 10 centimeters, you're taking that energy. You're taking all of this. I'm ready for my baby to be born. I've been dealing with these sensations, these waves that are contractions, and you can start to push that energy into pushing your baby. The mind, body, breath connection is the most important thing in the pushing. You want to, if you can, avoid the purple pushing where it's like your OB telling you when to push and how to push. What would be most ideal, and again, I've seen babies born in that way, healthy, perfect, totally fine. So don't be freaked out if that's what's working for you. What is your most ideal is to intuit, and we'll talk about this in the holistic pregnancy program of how to, our neighborhood's so friendly. One neighbor sneezing, the other from across the yard is, bless you, like it is a really great neighborhood, but you will, so avoid the purple pushing. In the program, we're going to talk to you about how to gauge your intuition and access this tool in your body. Your intuition will show you in labor, in the midst of the chaos, what position to push in. Your intuition will help you know when to push at what time with what breath. Actually, your body holds all the keys. And if you feel like you're interested in the holistic pregnancy and birth support, just go ahead, hop off here, go to the link in my bio or the link in the replay, click on holistic pregnancy. It'll take you there. This program starts in 2 weeks. We close registration next week. So if you're interested, definitely hop over there. We take payment plans, and you can use your HSA and your FSA for this program because it's health related. It's really awesome. However, your intuition is going to show you the position. It's going to, if you have access and you understand this tool, it'll help guide your breath. And then your empowered, unbiased education is going to be what helps you stand in your power and stand that ground, right? To say, okay, actually, thank you for the recommendation, Dr. So-and-so. I'm really feeling like my body needs to be here. Are you okay with that? Is that safe for me? And 99% of the time, what your body is asking you to do is safe for you and your baby. So if your doctor wants you on your back, chest up, and say, I really want to try, I'm really feeling like I want to be on my hands or knees, or hanging over the top of the bed, or squatting, or hanging down from the side rails, I need movement down, I want to direct this pushing with breath, we will prepare you on exactly how to do this in the program so that you don't feel like you're left in the dark of like, because honestly, your providers have, most of them, not all of them, have one algorithm, one system, one way they're really used to and comfortable with delivering babies. And if you're asking for something different, it's like a restaurant that always makes filet mignon, mashed potatoes, and green beans. And you come in there asking for salmon, a baked potato, and steamed broccoli and carrots. They're going to be like, well, technically we could do that, but they're going to have to get out of their automatic mode and into a little bit of critical thinking, and then into their own intuition. So having your unbiased preparation, education, intuition, holistic pregnancy and birth support will prepare you for these scenarios to know what's safe for you and baby, and what advocacy and what ground do you have to maybe ask for this in a safe and supportive way. And always working with your birth team. The goal is to be a teammate with your doula, your doctor, your midwife, your nurses, never to come in and be like, this is what I'm doing, and this way. It never creates a good environment. So we'll teach you how, and your partner how, and your doula can be a part of the course, and like how to advocate and do this in a team way. Okay, so you're feeling that baby's head on your stretch receptors, and you're pushing, and baby's going to do this little, it's so frustrating for some moms. I'm sure in my birth I will be equally as impatient, but they're like playing peekaboo. They're rocking in, they're rocking out. This is doing something really beautiful in your perineum. This is starting to stretch your perineum. So sometimes the longer your pushing phase, just like when I said, if you're having lots of pre-labor, like warm-up labor, it's taking you from that 0 to 4, and then you're going to be nice and warmed up, ready to go. So your labor will actually be shorter and less effort. Same thing with pushing. If you're not one of the moms who pushes and it gets baby out in 3 pushes, that's okay. The longer your baby's head is on your perineum, most of the time, the less tearing you will have, and your midwife or your doctor can use warm compress, different kind of oils to support the perineum, and your baby will go rock in, rock out, and just starting to stretch, starting to do their job. Also, as they're rocking, they're getting all that really beneficial flora from your birth canal into their nose, into their mouth, down into their gut. And I know some people are like, oh, that's so weird, so gross. But your flora is going to be what helps colonate them and their gut and their IgA secretory system before they even get to the breast milk. And then the breast milk is going to be like the best probiotic they ever had. So they're rocking in and out. They're stretching your perineum. Oh, hey, Amanda. Good to see you, love. My very good nurse practitioner friend just joined us, so she might have some insight as well. Baby's coming down, you push. When baby's ready, they're going to get head out, and then all the time moms feel the head out and they're like, oh, I'm done. And the birth attendant, OB, midwife, whoever is like, no, mom, we need one more push. And that's when you're going to give from the core. Remember that mind, body, breath connection from the core of your being. You're going to give the biggest push. You're going to deliver baby's shoulders all the way out, and you're going to feel a huge relief and all of the oxytocin in the world you can imagine. They'll bring baby. Most of the time, the cord is not super long, so you'll have baby to like your belly. And then as they deliver the placenta, this is when you get the option to, do we want to do delayed cord clamping? What kind of interventions do I want? And once placenta is delayed, then baby comes all the way up. So if you're in a position, if you're flat on your back pushing, which is never really the best, if you have the option, if you're on your side, if you're in like a semi-reclined, if you're on hands and knees, you can roll over and you can have baby more of here. Instead of flat on your back, you're going to feel like you are worlds away from your baby, right? So bringing your baby up, having those interventions, this is one thing we will prepare everyone for in the course of like, do I want delayed cord clamping? Do I want delayed bathing? Do I want erythromycin? Do I want delayed weights? Like, how do I want to do breastfeeding? Do I want Hep B? Like, you're going to have so many interventions coming your way to have the unbiased, empowered information and education beforehand, and also information and guidance on how to access your intuition. You will know there's this invisible conversation happening that most moms, I'd say, aren't aware of, but you're aware of it now. There's a conversation happening below your neck between your body and your baby and the baby's spirit. Your baby isn't in their body until they take their first breath. They're in spirit. They're your spirit baby. They can talk to you. They can help guide you. When I do energy healing sessions to prepare moms for birth, their spirit baby usually comes in and is like helping guide and, you know, the right environment they'd like to be born, the way they want the lights, the pushing positions. It just like starts to get your brain familiar with these images planted in the subconscious, so that when you're in really reactive, like your birth, you're going to be in fight or flight a little bit. If we can keep your nervous system calm enough, will ideally keep you out of that. But when you just pushed a baby into the world, like, you're going to have an adrenaline rush, and you're going to fall back on the training in your nervous system and the programming in the subconscious. And so we can do all that prep work ahead of time. And then you'll have interventions to be asked. You'll be thinking about breastfeeding. You'll have all of these things aware, but your baby is not in spirit until the first breath. And that's my theory of why babies cry, because they're like, oh my gosh, my light body, my soul was just put into this body, and it's kind of dense here, and it's new, and it's shocking. And then they just left like a really warm, wet, juicy environment. They're like, what is this world, right? So in labor, don't forget in pregnancy that you have this conversation happening just below your neck. Your baby, so you have your baby in spirit that you can access and connect with them just the way you pray or access any divine support. You have your body, who's a channel of intuition and information, and then you have baby's body. So you can lean into these different, you know, your body's an energy receptor, baby's body's an energy receptor, baby's spirit is a spirit energetic guide to you. You have all of this information. And so having access and understanding this, when your doctor's in front of you with the clipboard and the algorithm and telling you you've got X amount of time or this intervention is needed, you can say, please pause. Can you give me 30 seconds? Can you give me 5 minutes, depending on the time sensitivity of this matter? And you can tune in and you can check in and you can see what's going on, and you can have that education and empowerment. Everything your baby needs is within you. It is. And you know what? We don't have control. You can prepare in all the ways, and it can be in your highest expression, highest divine order, for whatever reason of God's greater plan, to have a birth experience that was different than what you planned and desired. And we're holding one of our sisters and friends in this community who had a birth experience she never anticipated, or none of us ever wanted for her. And she is having some of the most spiritual encounters and messages and teachings. Like, all of us would change it in a heartbeat. And the fact that we can't change it, and the fact of the way that she's understanding and seeing what she went through and her choices, and how everything was like so divine, even through what she didn't want, is really beautiful. So just remember, you can prepare, and having the education, unbiased information, access to your intuition is going to set you up for the best birth outcomes, because it's going to help your nervous system feel safe, your breath, your vital signs, your baby. And then at the end of the day, don't beat yourself up if things aren't 100% the way you planned, because there's a huge element of birth, just like life. Like, you could plan your day. You're going to say, at this time, I'm going to go to the store. At this time, I'm going to get my nails done. At this time to this time, I'm going to take care of client emails. This time to this time, I'm going to walk the dog. This time to this time, I'm going to make dinner. This time to this time, I'm going to help kids with homework. And something can completely come into your day and change that. And birth is the same way. Birth is, if you have connection to what divine support is for you, if you have that pre-established connection to your spirit baby, your intuition, just as Amanda said, everything your baby needs will be within you. If you feel like this holistic pregnancy and birth support, you're like, I don't know what Jen's talking about, but I need some sort of that. If you want to meet the women who are going to walk alongside you, whether you're pregnant now or wanting to be pregnant, or you just delivered a baby, if you're in this, if this energy and this message is resonating with you and you're vibing with this and you feel like you want some of this, send me a DM or click on the link in my show notes or the replay, the Holistic Pregnancy Program. We have 1 week left to get you signed up. We start in July. And this is going to be unlimited support from me, from this community. And we're going to be each week meeting, or you can catch the replay, talking through these topics. You're going to have the best prepared, and you're going to feel so good going into your birth, okay? And you're going to have all of these women and sisters in your birth tribe and community around you. It used to be that women had community. We had like a priestess at our birth for the spiritual needs. We had a birth attendant or OB for our perineum and our baby. We had a doula for our emotional needs. We had our partner to be our partner. We had a mom and a sister to offer loving wisdom, to bring us nourishment and food. And what I see now is women, we get, because of society's condition, we're like, It's just me and the OB. It's just me and the nurse midwife or whoever, right? Like, and you have a whole tribe around you. So now is the time to start forming that tribe. The program is $400. You can do it in payment plans. You can use your HSA or your FSA so it doesn't dip out of your personal pocket because it is a healthcare expense. It is a beautiful thing. If you have any questions, just send me a message. Head over to the website, send us an email, and we might do another pop-up live. Let me know if you guys could DM me any questions you have or thoughts on what's unclear for you for your holistic pregnancy, birth experience. We'll do one more live. Next week I'll be in Italy, and then I get back and we're launching the program. So I'm sure I can find a little slice of Italy to go live and connect with you all. But let me know your questions, and I will see you all next week, and then would love to have those who are resonating with this kind of community and birth journey, send me a message and let's get you and plugged into this community. So talk to you all very soon.